look inward and remind yourself, what can you control and what can they control? You cannot control that, number one, that they're addicted to it. You cannot control that they're angry because they haven't had it in the time period that they need it so they can function or whatever it may be. I've gone so far as, seeing people go out and try to help them find their pills or whatever to like bring down the situation. No,
Yeah.
that's a no.
I'm
Like,
so glad you addressed that because that was
yeah,
going to be my next question.
yeah. I
The
mean,
enabler.
yes, the enabler is like the queen of people pleasing, right? Because they're just trying to keep the peace for everyone and for themselves. And I did it with my brother. Like I helped him financially, helped him with food, helped him in so many ways I just should not have helped him with because it was my people pleasing. Like it was making me feel safe to do that. Okay, well, I can sleep tonight and stuff because I gave him some money for quote unquote gas.
Hello, hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Christian Wellness for Weary Women. Today, I have a special guest on, and I'm so excited for Tara to share her story with us and what she does and the types of her audience that she works with. And so, Tara's going to come on here in just a minute, but before we get started, of course, I want to take a minute to invite you to my live workshop that I'm hosting on March 23rd. I think, Tara, have you already signed up for it?
I need to do that. It is
But
on
you're
my
in the
to do. I
group.
need to sign up.
You're in the group and you mentioned that you wanted to come,
Yes, I
right?
definitely
Okay.
want to come. Definitely want to come.
Yay.
In
I would
fact,
love
I'm
to have
ready
you
to come.
there. Yes.
Yes.
So it's happening March 23rd at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, but you do not have to show up live. You can catch the replays. So if you can't show up at 1 o'clock Central Time, please go ahead and sign up because you will get in your inbox a replay directly to your inbox, plus all of the wonderful offers that I'm offering because you signed up for it as a thank you for coming. And so don't miss it. Just go to the show notes, click the link, and you can sign up for the Burnout Recovery Workshop. We are going to tackle what burnout is. Yeah? No, it's not on right now. No, we're not on the internet right now. I have to have all the internet for this. Mm-hmm. It is. Y'all go play. Go play something else. Thank goodness I have someone who can edit these videos. Okay. We're going to tackle what burnout is. We're going to tackle why what you've tried in the past hasn't worked. And then we're going to build your own burnout recovery plan so that when you leave the workshop, you will know exactly what to do, the steps to take, and it's going to be extremely simple. So simple is good, especially for women in burnout because we're already overwhelmed. We lack cellular energy. So go sign up, go to the show notes and click the link to join. I'll see you there. Okay. Moving into our interview today. I'm so excited about this. I have not had a guest on my podcast in quite some time because it just felt like too much. But Tara and I connected through the podcast course that we're both in. And she said, "Hey, I found your show and I've been following it and I've been listening." And then I listened to her podcast and we've kind of been on somewhat of the same journey, but our target audience is very similar because she is helping women in the health and wellness space who have basically found themselves in burnout because they have been living under chronic stress for such a long time. So I'm going to read her bio and what she does, and then I'm going to let her tell her story, and we're going to talk about all the things that she does. So Tara is a health and wellness coach focusing on women who love addicts. These women live high stress lives and are typically putting themselves on the back burner. She wants to help them prioritize their self-care with prayer, stress management, nourishment, movement, and nervous system regulation tools so that they can cope with their loved one's addiction in a healthier way. So, Tara, tell us how you got on this journey. Tell us about the addict that you love, and we want to hear all the things.
Yay. Thank you. First, thank you so much, Cassie, for having me on. I'm super excited to be here and I'm definitely signing up for your workshop. It is on my to-do. Because yes, I've binged your show and I love what you talk about. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. I'm very happy to be here. Yeah, so my journey is in my mid 20s. My only sibling, my brother, who I was super close to, I am still super close to, but things have changed. But he became addicted to opioids, during that opioid epidemic. So my world was just rocked upside down. I kind of took it upon myself to make it my mission to fix him, save him, cure him, whatever it was. And mind you, I just recently gotten married, had a baby, had a high stress, management position. So I'm doing all that. And I am in at the meantime trying anything and everything I can do to fix my brother. And also, my parents are divorced, but I was trying to be like a buffer too, to like kind of take burden off of them. Like I just felt like I had it was just on me to fix him and fix everyone and make everyone happy. I was researching, rehabs, natural ways, just all the things. And then so this went on for 20 years of my
Mm.
life, 20 years of this. And during this time, there was a lot of like in and out of rehabs, jail times that I thought he was passed away,
Mhm.
relapses, just a lot of turmoil all this time. Well, about 15, 16 years into it, I just hit a wall. I literally hit a wall and just like for years, I felt pretty resilient to it. I felt like, oh, I got all this. I can handle it all. And then I hit a wall. And so it has become my mission to help other women specifically that are dealing with the same problem, that love an addict, whether it be their spouse or their child or sibling like me, whoever it is. It's just, I want them to realize you have to prioritize yourself because all this time that I was dealing with trying to fix him and all the things and then have, husband and baby and job, I was not making myself a priority at all. And that is why I hit the wall that I hit. And therefore, that is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, I didn't share this with you. I know the opioid addict all too well. My stepfather was addicted to opioids from about the time that my brother was born, and it was very tough. It was very tough on my mom. My mom, looking back now, I realized that she went through burnout in her early 30s, actually, because she was diagnosed with endometriosis and ended up having to have a total hysterectomy.
Oh,
I think I was like 12.
oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and so my mom lived under that chronic stress of trying to love an addict, and I very much picked up on a lot of the things that you talk about in your podcast. By the way, tell my audience what your podcast is called.
Yeah, it is called Healthy Coping While Loving an Addict.
Yeah, I love it. I think so many people just need that support, obviously, because when you are loving an
Yes.
addict, there is nothing that you can do to fix them. They're going to be
No.
have to be the ones that change their mind or encounter Jesus, or a lot of them are even saved. They've already encountered Jesus, and
Yeah.
then they fall away. And a lot of it actually comes down to a lot of addicts. They turn to the addiction because their central nervous system is in the same case, like you and I experience burnout and we shut down and we experience these physical symptoms. But a lot of times those who turn to addiction, it's literally because that's their way of coping
Yes.
with the
Yes.
stress.
Yes. For
Yeah.
sure. And I was doing all that too, trying to figure out why he was like, yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, the reason I want to do what I'm doing, so I did Al-Anon and all the, group supports, and don't get me wrong, those are fabulous if you feel like you need help. But all of those, and I did therapy, but I feel like Al-Anon and things like that, they're all geared to like the addict a little bit. I mean, it's about kind of about, well, boundaries you can set with the addict. And, it's just a lot about the addict, but there's no one really talking about what this is doing
Hmm.
to us and like our body and our nervous system and our wellness. That is exactly why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, is because I feel like there's a little missing link there. I feel like there's a lot of support, but
Hmm.
none that's really talking about what it's doing to our bodies.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. A lot of like, so I did an HTMA test on a family member of mine. So I knew her background and her story and what she had been through in her life. And she was an adult of an addict, a, an addict that was a parent. I'm trying to figure out the exact way that there's like a way to say that. But
Her parent was an addict.
an adult child of an addict.
Got it.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
yes. And a lot of times, what you see, a pattern that shows up over and over from someone who is an adult child of an addict, you see that their patterns show up as someone who has learned to protect themselves from the addict. And
hmm
a lot of times, and then the reason that they turn to addiction is because that's the same pattern that was showing up in their parents. And a lot of times it looks like very high calcium on an HTMA test, which is very interesting because you think of it as hard, like calcium is a hard mineral. And you even said it, what you said in your podcast was that my brother became a shell of himself.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
because they've learned this is their way to protect themselves. They've had to armor themselves from the world. They've had to protect themselves from the world for whatever reason. A lot of addicts might feel that way. And then it creates the generational cycle of turning to addiction again, because this is what their body feels like it has
Yes.
to turn to because it's the mineral patterns going on in their body, which is extremely interesting and something that
It's interesting you said that too, because my dad's an alcoholic. So,
there you go. Yeah.
he's a functioning alcoholic, definitely,
Mm.
but he's still an alcoholic.
Yep.
So there's that. So yeah,
And how old
that's
were y'all?
interesting.
Very. How old were y'all when y'all experienced divorce? How old was he and how old were you?
I was 8, so he was like four,
Okay.
4.5. We're 3.5 years apart. Yeah.
Yeah. So even though he was young, he probably just
Oh yeah,
unconsciously picked up.
for sure. He remembers a lot. He actually oddly remembers more sometimes things that I remember, but then again, I'm 49 and I'm going through all the things and my brain is not.
Yeah.
So yeah. But, yeah, he remembers a lot for sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely, some trauma there, I'm sure.
So how is your brother now before we get into some of the other
My
questions?
brother he is sober and he's been sober for, I don't know, like 3 years. He's doing well. I really thought, I always prayed that it was going to be the case.
Hmm.
And I was like, there were times I gave up hope that it was going to be the case, but then there was always something that always just reminded me it is going to be the case. So I'm super happy that yes, he is sober now and he's doing well. Our relationship has changed,
Hmm.
for reasons. I mean, 20 years of it's a long time to,
Yeah.
go through things, and I had to do some, boundary setting for myself. But yes, my brother is sober. He gave me I literally asked my brother's permission to do this my podcast. I didn't want to like put him on
Hmm.
blast.
Yeah. That was going
And
to be my next question.
he was fine. He was fine
Good.
with it. He was fine
Good.
with it. I felt if I didn't ask, I would have felt weird. So
Yeah,
yeah, he's totally
definitely.
fine. Yeah,
Yeah. You needed that freedom or weight off of your chest to not feel like it
for
was,
sure.
yeah,
Yes.
that he was
Because
okay
the
with
bottom
it.
line is he's an amazing person. You
Hmm.
know, drug addiction, the person that's on the drugs is not the person. So
Yes, absolutely. That's totally true. Unfortunately, yes, they're everything changes about them. They're easy to pop off. They're easy. Everyone begins walking on eggshells, and that's why we pick up these fawning type central
yes.
nervous system responses. And I've done a whole episode, and so have you, on the fawn response. So if you're a people pleaser, go listen to both of our episodes on the fawning
Yes.
response. And honestly, the fawn response, I feel like it's kind of intertwined with the other central nervous system reactions, because you've got fight or flight, you've got rest and digest. And a lot of times, even when you're stuck in the rest and digest, that's almost more of that freeze response, because if you think of like paralyzed. Um, and then you've even got what actually is some of the ones we don't talk about. When you have that really high calcium level, for instance, in an addict, there's another central nervous response that we call a cocoon effect. And so literally it's turning into an inward to yourself. But sometimes I feel like the fawn response, it becomes almost like we see it as someone's personality instead of
Yeah.
recognizing it as an actual
Yes.
safety response in the body. And so it's
Yes.
harder to recognize, even for myself, someone finally pointing out what a fawn response was. I was like, oh my gosh, I do this all the time. I do this all
I
the
still
time.
struggle with it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
still like I know that's yeah, but I said yeah, I'm a people pleaser. My mom, oh, she's like the definition of people pleaser.
Mm.
And that is because I know why. It's this her central nervous system. She's in the fawn state all the time, I think, all the time. She's between fight or flight and fawn, fight or flight and fawn.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So interesting. These are definitely areas that you do have to, and I do want you to share with my audience at the end some micro steps that we can take. But I think since we've touched on the fawn response, I do want you to really touch on some of the micro steps that we can take to start breaking the fawn response, because I feel like we're talking to a lot of people who
Yeah.
really
Sure.
step into that role. So with the fawn response is basically you feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time. You feel like, okay, if what I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that person's happy. It's like you feel like somehow you can control the situation instead of like consciously just being like, okay, I can't control what they're doing. It's not my responsibility to try to make them happy. Um, I'm not going to get up and start cleaning at this moment to try to make the space clear and clean. I'm not going to ask them if there's anything that I can do for like it really is this for me at least. I have to talk myself through it and be like, that's not mine to carry.
Yeah. So one of the things that I would tell someone that was working with me, for instance, is kind of setting like a boundary to kind of
Hmm.
get yourself, to look inward at yourself. So I would suggest someone if they're finding themselves in this people pleasing state, first and foremost, okay, prayer and like prayer is number one. I feel like it with any state that you're in, any state your central nervous system is in. I feel like prayer and like time for yourself and prayer is number one that I recommend anyone to do. But I would like for someone that is feeling if they're in this people pleasing state and what take a piece of pen and paper out, old school it, or if you want to do it on your computer, but on the left you can, things that they can control and the things that you're in control of. And remind yourself like you're not in control of the fact that I don't know. Help me with an example here.
Well,
That
to me, a lot of times, and it a lot of times it does come down to like me and my husband in the home, right? Like my
Mhm.
husband is not a people pleaser at all. So if he's going to
That's
get mad, he's going
fine.
to get mad, you know? And so it's like we're totally opposites. And so what he doesn't recognize is that if he's irritated, immediately I'm like, "Oh no, did I make you mad?" You know? And
Right.
that's not and that has nothing to do with it. So my immediate response is to ask him, "Are you mad?" I have learned this, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know, but it helps to relieve me of the pressure, but it also helps me to use my voice. And so I'll just look him in the eyes and I'll say, "Are you mad at me?" Okay? And then whatever his response is, but those are the moments where I've had to recognize, okay, he is irritated, but I hate that feeling. I hate it so much, but this is a, an my body feeling unsafe and
Yes.
me recognizing that I can't control it and he's going to have to work through it on his own. I don't even
Yeah.
know if
So
that really
like
answered your question, but
yeah, it does. And like in the addiction space, like
mm,
if you have someone that, let's say, they're blowing up because they can't find the substance that they're addicted to, and it is creating all this turmoil and anger, and they're
yeah.
like, that is not, you have to, this is what I'm saying, look inward and remind yourself what can you control and what can they control. You cannot control that number one that they're addicted to it. You cannot control that they're angry because they haven't had it in the time period that they need it so they can function or whatever it may be. You cannot, and I've gone so far as, seeing people go out and try to help them find their pills or whatever to like bring down the situation. No,
Yeah.
that's a no.
I'm
Like,
so glad you addressed that because that was
yeah,
going to be my next question.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
The
mean,
enabler. The enabler.
yes, the enabler is like the queen of people pleasing, right? Because they're just trying to keep the peace for everyone and for themselves. And they feel like if they're doing that, then, and I did it with my brother. Like, I totally helped him financially, helped him with food, helped him in so many ways I just should not have helped him with because it was my people pleasing. Like it was making me feel safe to do that. Okay, well, I can sleep tonight and stuff because I gave him some money for quote unquote gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that you took it to that angle and you specifically addressed helping the fawn response with the one who's dealing with the addict.
Yeah.
And honestly, it brought back so many memories I haven't even thought of in so
Oh,
long.
I'm
I mean,
sorry
it's not
about
bad.
that.
No, it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
not bad at all. We've moved through it and my stepfather, at the end of his life, he ended up getting on methadone, which was no better, than anything. And that became its own addiction in and of itself.
Addicted to the, yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just the memory, specifically the memory of them, him, yeah, like can't find what he needs, and being young, not really realizing in the moment that that's what was going on, but later on recognizing it, that like, oh, he's popping off and like things are kind of getting out of control because he doesn't have that next fix right there at his fingertips.
Right.
My mom told me that there were times, two different stories I want to tell, and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
And but my mom would find the pills like in the hems of the curtains
Oh,
of the
they're
house.
so
Yeah.
crafty.
Yes, very
Yeah.
crafty. Yeah, because it's we have to understand as Christians what happens when we're addicted to drugs. It's literally a potion, and so this is witchcraft. And so this is what we're dealing with, right? We're not just dealing with an addict. We're not just dealing with mineral imbalances in the body. We're also dealing with the spiritual battle of witchcraft. But it all goes hand in hand. We can't just always we cannot. This is what I especially want to stress to the church, because you and I are speaking to Christian women, is that we cannot just ever label something as only a spiritual problem, okay? You
Right.
can't just pray this thing away or rebuke this thing away. Like, does it help? Absolutely. But when Jesus healed people that were addicted or had major things going on in their life, like addiction, you always see a sozo healing. And I want to do a whole podcast on this very soon. But a sozo healing always addresses body, soul, and spirit. All three have to be addressed. And so when we're talking about an addict and we're looking at what's going on in the physical body, the reason that they're turning to drugs is because their body is missing certain nutrients. And so they're turning to the drugs because the body's like, obviously it's craving the drug now because it's actually not getting the nutrients that it needs. And there is actually a program that I went through where they full on address overloading the body with these major nutrients, and they sometimes they see people not even go through withdrawals
Oh,
because
wow.
the body is actually getting the nutrients that it needs. Yeah, it's amazing.
I
And
believe wholeheartedly in what you're saying. Like it's all, and this is what I'm trying to do with my clients is, mind, spirit, body, it all goes together. So
yeah.
like the what you're feeding your body, you're moving your body,
Hmm.
prayer, time with God, all of it. All of it
Yes.
goes together.
Yes, it's so needed. I want to share the second story and then wrap this up. But
Yeah.
the other story that my mom shared with me was that so my dad was trading square bales of hay for his pills. And so my mom would go down to the barn to go feed her horses, and we wouldn't have any feed to feed the horses. And so one day, and we would get massive loads of these square bells, at a time. And so our entire loft in our barn was full of hay. And she said, I went through every single bale of hay and I cut every string on every bale so he couldn't move
Ooh.
a single bale of hay to get his dang pills. We can laugh about it now, but this is the stress that those who love an addict go through. And this is
Yes.
now the way their mind works is that now I have to prevent our family from going broke, our animals not being fed, our kids not being fed because the drug becomes priority over the family. And it's really sad because, as a child of an addict, I was already a stepdaughter, so that was one thing. But secondly, for me, it was okay. Like you don't even love us enough to stop your addiction.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how I felt too. Like, you
Hmm.
don't love us enough to stop. But
Yeah.
man, I have so much, sympathy and empathy for the people that are addicted. Because I just know I feel like it's not a choice, right? I feel
Yeah.
like it's not, sometimes they make bad decisions that leads to a choice, but they get addicted, and it's like you said, there's deficiencies, which I find very interesting, and I feel like I wonder how many like addiction recovery places like address that. I think I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
look that up. Very interested.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it wrecks people's lives. It really wreck it. The addict, the people that love. It's just it does a number, and it definitely did a number to me. So I am hoping to help people put themselves as a priority. It's okay if you want to try to help and love your person that's addicted. I get that, but you also have to focus on yourself at the same time, or else there's all kinds of things that it's going that can happen to your health if you don't.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, my last question for you, and then we're going to wrap this up. What are some of your most favorite rhythms, exercises, nutrition choices that you still implement today when you find yourself in that stressful state again?
So number one is I've already said prayer, like, and I do this all throughout the day. But
Mhm.
even what I really like to do is okay, walk. So walk is one of my favorite movement choices. I like to walk in nature when I can, when weather permits. And that's a good time to spend with God during that time. So that's like probably my number one is walking. And depending on what state you're in, when you're in the fawn state, in my opinion, you don't really feel like walking. You don't want to
Mhm.
do anything. You just don't want to do. But if you could just get up 5 minutes and just 5 minutes each day and just add to it, that's my number one movement choice is walking. There are been times when I was in fight or flight that I felt like I had to run because I felt just all this anxiety inside of me and it had to come out.
Yeah.
So I've done that too. But, if you do that too much, I do believe if you're in fight or flight and you go for a run, you at least need to do some stretching or calming activities afterwards because you're increasing your cortisol and all the things going
Yeah.
on the run. So you kind of want to bring yourself back down.
That's right. Yes. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you said that because I don't think we
Yeah.
realize that going on a run increases cortisol. Getting
Yes.
your heart rate up too high is increasing cortisol when we're already in a very high cortisol state. And then I want to make sure you said when you're in the fawn state, but I think you meant when you're in the freeze state. Did
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
When you're in the freeze state, it's super hard to
Yeah.
to to motivate yourself to get off the
Yes.
couch. I mean, it
Yeah.
really is. And then it's like you think you're just lazy, but it's not. You're
Mm-mm.
not just lazy.
No.
Like you cannot you cannot motivate yourself
Mm-mm.
enough. It's just you have to just do. Like if it means just putting on your shoes one day and oh, I didn't make it for the walk, but I got my shoes on. Well, the next day try to get a few minutes
Yep.
in, and this
Yeah.
you keep doing.
Yeah.
And then you asked me nutrition tips.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, so simplicity, I feel like is key because I feel like when we're overwhelmed and we're stressed out and we're burning out and all the things, the thought of like putting together meals is like overwhelming in
Yes.
my opinion, and I think in a
Yeah.
lot of others' opinions. So simple. I think the best thing you can do is try to keep an emergency stock, and I
Mm-hmm.
will call that an emergency stock in your pantry of things that you can quickly grab to throw something together. So like for me, we have chicken, so I always have eggs. I can just scramble up some eggs and a piece of fruit, throw in some spinach, something like that for like a quick scramble for breakfast. Soups I feel like are super easy, also very amazing in the winter, but anytime really. Soups and smoothies. So soups and smoothies, you can throw them together quickly. You can make sure you have all of your protein, your carbs, your fiber, all that in it, and it's simple. It's not anything you're having to like invest all this time with 100 ingredients. So my main thing is just keeping simple things I can throw together on hand. Rice packets like the brown rice or quinoa packets that you can just heat up quickly, or you can cook a batch of quinoa and like throw some in the freezer. Simplicity, but having all the macronutrients that we need to get to keep our blood sugar, balanced. And because
Yeah.
when that's not balanced, we're adding more stress to our already stressed out body.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, I love all of those tips. I think the keeping it simple piece on the nutrition is where so many people get intimidated and then they don't just go ahead and take that step to focus on their nutrition until they're forced to. It sounds like you and I both were kind of like forced into it because
For
we
sure.
hit a wall and it was like sink or swim. Here you go. And so you know what? It's what it comes down to is choose your hard. It's going to be
Yeah.
hard either way. It's going to continue being hard if you don't change your diet. It's going to be a little bit hard, but it's going to get better if you go ahead and just do the hard thing of changing your diet. It's just a learning curve. And so when the central nervous system is already shutting down, overwhelmed, you don't have the actual cellular energy to meet the energy demands of the day, then yes, cooking is going to feel just, and then on top of that, if you're not creating a meal plan and you're, at 5 o'clock trying to throw dinner together, it's super overwhelming.
So
Um,
overwhelming.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Been there
yeah,
100 times.
yes. And
And then you're
so,
just grabbing junk, right? Then
yes,
you're just, your body's craving some energy and you're just shoving, and then you feel worse. It's just none of
yeah,
this is like we're already stressed. Our body is already feeling unsafe. And then we're just adding to it by skipping the
yeah.
meals or throwing in all the junk.
Exactly. One thing that I've been doing recently is number one, I cut back to just one side. I don't have to have two sides, with our protein. I can just throw some cut carrots in the oven and bake them. I can just do some broccoli on the side. I can just do zucchini in the skillet. And so
Yeah,
that's
why do
something.
we make things so hard, right? Like, where did we come up with this? You had to have this,
Yeah.
and I don't know.
Yeah. And then
I
one
mean,
thing one thing that we've been doing is a lot more just low carb meals in general. And so I'm not worried about getting that extra carb in on the side as well as the broccoli or the carrot or whatever. And so
and
that's
really, if you're going to do that, I feel like dinner's the place to do that, right?
yeah,
If you're going to cut a carb at, the end of the day
exactly.
when your body's not really needing that extra energy. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip about, why do we think we have to have like all the
Yeah.
things at dinner? It's
Yeah.
so, it makes the overwhelmed brain so even more overwhelmed. And then you just freeze and you do nothing.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and giving
Thank
us your
you for having
advice.
me.
And
Yes.
thank you for doing what you're doing. And I know that your message and your podcast is going to reach a lot of women. So tell my audience one more time what your podcast is called.
Yep, it is healthy coping while loving an addict.
Yeah. And so you're on all the platforms, right?
Yes, all
Okay.
platforms.
And if you can't remember the title of the podcast, just type in Tara Little and I'm sure she will pop up. Type in Tara Little Addicts or Addict. It will pop up. You will find it. I promise.
Hopefully you will find me.
Yes. And so follow her. Her podcast is very new and she's working all the steps to create what she needs to create in order to help the women who love an addict. And so you don't just have to be married to an addict or have a family member an addict. It's all aspects of addiction
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
supporting the one who's trying to support the addict. And so,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes. Supporting yourself for sure.